That week sucks. It sucks a lot. So I was very fortunate where I pushed through Hell Week, went all 5.5 days. I only remember 3 days of it.
Really?
Well, you remember little parts of it and you start to put together the pieces over the years, but for a couple of years after it, you don't necessarily remember more than 3 days because they start to get really foggy. It's people say you get a couple hours of sleep a day. That's not true at all. Your body doesn't fall into realm. You don't fall into sleep. And every time you try to fall into sleep, your instructors are there to remind you that you should be awake. And so there's a whole lot that's not written in books that really happens. So it's 5.5 days where you're cold, wet, tired, miserable. But I think that's a perfect example in training of how you should get ready for war. Yes, it's hard, it's terrible, and not everybody's got it. I think a lot more people do have it than they believe in themselves. And
Agreed.
That's one of the things. You have to believe in yourself and really want it. But it was a great training tool for me to understand that you could really push yourself further than you thought. I mean, before that, I was a Walgreens photo printer. So I wasn't really pushing myself there. I printed a lot of pictures, but
I can do some glossing.
Yes. I should get a sponsorship for Walgreens since I say it so much now.
I know the Walgreens. I actually went to college with them. So
did you?
I'll see what I can do to hook you up there.
Send the word. They set me up to be a Navy SEAL sniper. So
there you go.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I don't remember. I certainly don't remember the very end, the tail end of it, except for the final piece of Hell Week, which was the grad portion. And I'll share the story. So we're cruising back. It's 5.5 days into it. And the instructor gets on the megaphone and he says, "Hey guys, I'm sorry to report, but the class before, 2 classes before you is getting ready to graduate today. So we got to roll you 24 hours to the right." And 2 things happened right then and there. One, my brain exploded because I was like, oh my God, another day. But at the same time, it told me right away, oh, we're at day 5. It's Friday. Sweet. Because you have no sense of time. You only know the sun goes up, the sun comes down, and you start to gauge it by you eat every 6 hours. You have a new instructor staff coming in every 8 hours. So you can kind of gauge it because you can't just walk up to an instructor and be like, "Hey, can I get a time hack real quick?" It don't work like that in the military, So you kind of gauge it off of that. But after a period of time of just your body going to complete mental and physical fatigue, you have no idea or comprehension of where you're at. But then that led me to, okay, we're at day 5. And then you think to yourself, wow, I make it this far. And as you're thinking through this stuff, you're standing in front of the beach and the instructor's, he gets on the megaphone. He says about face, or I'm sorry, he says, interlock arms. You're about to get surf tortured. And so we're all standing there facing the ocean, day 5.5. You're getting ready to get in 50-degree water again. You don't want to.
How many had dropped out at this point?
At this point, I had no clue. I mean, I didn't even know what we started with in Hell Week. I know we started with like 180 some guys, and I think we were roughly around between 30 and 40 people left.
180 to 100 to down to 30.
We started day 1 of Buds, which would be 5 weeks or 4 weeks prior to Hell Week, with 180 some people. And by day 5 of Hell Week, we were at between 30 and 40 people. Man, yeah. So
that's a pretty impressive number.
Yeah, I don't remember most of them going away. You're like, what happened? Where's everybody? But we're standing there facing the ocean, interlock arms, getting ready to get surf tortured again, which is basically you sit in the water, you lay in the water and you just let that cold water surge over your body and just chill you to the core. And I remember the instructor saying on the megaphone about face right at the fringe of the water. We turn around and there's nobody there. Just an American flag stuck in the ground floating. And right then and there, I knew my why. Why would they show us that? Like, why? There's no trophies, there's no medals, there's an American flag floating. And they showed us that because so many men and women have died defending our country. And that's all you need to understand is what you fight for. And I was so blown away by that. And I was like, wow. I instantly got my meaning and purpose, my why of why I was there. Because you don't know what being a SEAL is. You're in training. You know what it is to be a student. You don't know what it is on the other side. But I got my why, and I was ready to fight. I was like, I'm in. I'm 100% committed. That's not indoctrination. That is American spirit. And I was so proud. And then right behind that, all the instructors come running up from behind the berm, screaming and cheering. It's the last time that an instructor would ever cheer for a student ever again through the rest of training. So fired up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? And you're so broken down. And the instructor, the commanding officer of Hell Week, or commanding officer of SEAL training, gets on the megaphone and says, congratulations to you, future Navy SEALs. Hell Week is secured. And of course, it's like, you want to jump to the sky. You want to get so fired up and excited. And you just realize that your body doesn't want to move another inch. And so you're like, good job. Where is my bed? And then you go and you lay in your bed and you're like, I can't wait to close my eyes and go to sleep. And then you're just up for the next 20 hours because you're so fired up. And you're like, but that was the most important part of that situation was I made a promise to myself that I would call my parents to tell them that I made it. And it was simple. I made the call, and I made the call to my mom first. And I said, hey, Mom, how you doing? And she said, oh my gosh, sweetie, I'm great. How are you doing? I said, that's a great question. Really tired. I'm exhausted, but I wanted to let you know that your son made it through Hell Week. And I'm not a failure anymore. And thank you for everything from the bottom of my heart, because you and my father are the reason that I'm here. And that was the most rewarding thing. And I call that my spark. You see, I get emotional about it when I talk about it, because if you don't fight for something you believe in, then you're not fighting. You're not moving forward. I use my spark every time I need it to turn on the gas and fight as hard as I can possibly do. So it's not about the times that are great. It's about generally every day, am I doing my absolute best? So I always refer back to my spark. Am I impressing my parents? Am I showing them that it's worth it, that I'm busting my butt? And so making that call to her, she started crying. I was an emotional basket case. I was like, hey, gotta get off the phone before I completely lose it in front of my teammates here. I gotta act tough, you know. And then I called my dad, and he had choice words because, you know, my dad was in the impression where he's a reader. And so he looked at the statistics SEAL training and he said, you know, it's an 85% attrition rate. And I said, well, I don't even know what that word means. So does that mean, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And he's like, dude, you got to get your head on a swivel. You have no idea what you're about to go up against. And when I told my father I graduated from Hell Week and that I was going to be a SEAL, he was beside himself. Because it was the first time in my life that I got to prove to my parents that I was doing something with my life. And it was the first time that I proved to myself that I could possibly be excellent.